Welcome to another fabulous episode of Unapologetically Free. Now, today I will be talking about how I relapse and how you can keep score on NoFap. 4 times in a week. That is how many times I relapse this week, following my almost 120 something days streak. Now, initially I hesitated and thought about whether or not to post this on YouTube. I was thinking, why bother? Perhaps I should maintain a more distant perspective and then just share things as someone that has been through NoFap over the years, rather than giving in and sharing about my more personal journey and basically being accountable to my own progress by sharing it on a public space. Now, I have recently been watching and learning from a renowned psychologist and also YouTuber called Jordan Peterson. And in his book 12 Rules for Life, one of the rules that he mentioned to have order in your life is to tell the truth. And I think this whole thought process reminded me of a conversation that I had a few years ago with a female friend that I had. I told her that I know of two general archetypes of attractive men. The first one is the strong, silent type. He is mysterious, he is elusive, and in general, he doesn't reveal that much about his life. You see, women find this type of guy attractive as long as he does look masculine and powerful. Then there is this other type that is one kind of guy that speaks with confidence, acts with certainty, and is decisive, and he is someone that stands behind his words. He is not afraid to say what he thinks, even if some of them may at times even come across as obnoxious. Ideally, of course, he tempers his words with wisdom. And if you ask me, my ideal person would be the man that owns his words, that owns his beliefs, and tells the truth. So this also reminds me of why this channel is even called Unapologetically Free. To be able to speak the truth, having faith that having a habit of speaking the truth always leads to the best possible outcome, although not immediately, but eventually. To not be apologetic about what you think, whatever mistakes you have made, and to not have to resort to lying to come up with a certain persona that is not you. So for the second part of this video, I want to share a metric for tracking NoFap score, a scorecard if you would. It is more geared towards semen retention improvement actually. But if you do not believe that ejaculation is draining, just track relapses from porn abuse using these metrics that I'm going to share with you, and exclude these numbers from those where you have from sexual intercourse. So the three metrics are: number one, your longest streak ever; number two, your current streak; and number three, the number of relapses or ejaculation that you have had in the last 365 days. Now, I did not come up with this concept. I got it from Julian Lee's Bliss of the Celibate. Now, the author in his book also makes many statements with regards to religious texts that I personally do not agree with, especially his take on Christianity. But I do find his framework for tracking, in his words, celibacy progress to be a very helpful model, and that is where I want to share this with you. So let us look at the three metrics. First one, longest streak ever. Now, I wouldn't consider this metric as the most useful, but it does give you a perspective on the kind of progress that you as a man once made. So basically, if you consider yourself a no-fapper, a semen retention person, you can just simply tell me these three numbers. What's your longest streak ever? My longest streak ever is around slightly above 4 months, which is actually my current streak that I broke. 125 days is my longest streak ever. Now, this, while it may not be the most useful, it gives yourself, and if you want to discuss your streak with people in the community, it gives them an inkling of, what kind of a journey and what kind of a progress you have made. The second metric is your current streak. Of course, the best thing that can happen to you is if your current streak is your longest streak, because that means that right now you every single day you are breaking your own record, and there is something satisfying knowing that you are moving to uncharted waters and that your life continues to improve because you have never been that long without masturbating, for example. So the second number is your current streak. So this metric brings immediacy, but if you have been, for example, no fapping or retaining your semen for a year, and let's say you relapse once, the problem with this metric is that basically you have now reset all the way to day zero. And psychologically, this makes you feel like all your past progress has been for naught. So imagine you have gone on a 300-day streak and then you relapse once and currently you're on day zero. It does come with it that little bit of disappointment in that it's going to take me another 300 days in order to be at the place where I was yesterday, for example. So I think while this is a metric that can be helpful, it can also be very dangerous, and is the main reason why some people in the community says to not count the days. Now, the last metric, which to me is the most important and powerful one, is the number of relapses in the past 1 year. That means in the past 365 days, how many times did you relapse? Now, this is a very important metric, and as long as I know this number for, let's say, you viewers out there, you who are watching this video right now, if you tell me that in the past 365 days you relapse, let's say, only 10 times, that goes to show the kind of progress that you have over a 1 year horizon, as opposed to someone who has relapsed for maybe 50 times in a year. Or maybe think back to that period of your time when you were still struggling a lot with pornography. Some people do it for 2 times or even 3 times a day. That means that their metric for their number for this particular metric, which is number of relapses in the past year, could be even 1,000 in a year. So what happens is you would want as far as possible over time to bring this number down. And that means that even if you have one relapse, it's okay. You don't continue to move on and keep on relapsing because you thought that now you're on day zero, might as well rub a few out before you continue on with your journey. Now, in the book, the author, of course, mentions ejaculation as what he calls male period or male PMS, referencing the female period, of course. And he basically believes that an ejaculation is worth 30 days of energy loss. Basically, he mapped that females lose energy during their period, therefore, male ejaculation is like female period. So, essentially, using this third matrix, he believes that a man that ejaculates, excluding wet dreams, less than 12 times in the past 365 days would then be psychologically superior to the female. Now, of course, I don't exactly know what he means by psychologically superior, but what I do know is that if you compare men and women, you will see that because most girls or women aren't that addicted to pornography, they have a certain baseline level of motivation of doing things that sometimes you do not see in men. And what I think happens is that men have this struggle with lust and with pornography that in general women do not struggle with. So if you look at what kind of a level of motivation women tend to have, and you kind of think about it a little bit more, basically using this framework, or if you trust in the author's number of saying that 12 times a year is the number or the goal to hit in order to be on par with a female losing her fluids, then 12 may be the number you want to aim for. Of course, that means also if you ejaculate less than 12 times a year, you start to transcend the level of motivation, the level of influence that perhaps even a female can have. Now, of course, what I'm telling you here is very arbitrary. They are not grounded in any way in science. This is simply a tool for you to make sense of your own progress. As long as you yourself are convinced by the progress that you can make, and as long as this kind of tool does not cause you to wallow in self-pity because your streak gets or got reset to 0, then I believe that it is a very helpful metric because it discourages you from giving up and binging even after your relapse. And your perspective now is, hey, how many times did I relapse in the past 365 days? And can I tell you this? If this number reaches 0 one day, it's definitely a cause for celebration, and it is definitely something that you should be very proud of. If you can say, for the past 1 year I did not masturbate even once, or I did not ejaculate even once. Ultimately, all these are but tools. Feel free to use them if they resonate with you. And as for myself, I will be picking myself up and I will be continuing on this never ending journey to find myself as a man with no fap, of course, as one of the key tools. If you like this video, like it, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you again.